Still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications options. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you,
good morning, welcome along to NUFC Matters for another episode of Ask Penman. How are you, Stu?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Good, mate. Bit cold, isn't it, on the Napa?
Getting used to the cold weather for now.
All right.
The wind is more than anything else. It's the cold wind, not the temperature.
Aye, 100%. Okay, we've got an hour with Stu, so rattle through the questions. Got plenty to be getting on with. Just want to ask your view on the Sunderland game first and foremost, mate. You're the last one to have a chat about that this week.
Well, as you know, I was there. There's not much positive you can come out with it. It was, first half was decent, but we could have been better. But there was signs where we were sitting back. And then the second half, you could just see it unfolding from after about 5 minutes of the second half started. You'd see that they had the desire to get back into the game, and we didn't have the desire to extend the lead. And I don't care who you're playing in the Premier League, you can't just allow them the ball to attack you and think you can defend, because 9 times out of 10 it's not going to happen. And the things, I mean, I watched the lads last night and they made some excellent points. But when you've got players, when we're at home in a derby, telling other people to slow the game down, the only time we look dangerous is when we started moving the ball around quickly. Because you have to win the battles in games like that to win the war. And in the first half, we matched them for their endeavour in the fight. Then the clash should take over. But it seemed to me that they were waiting for it to happen rather than trying to make things happen. And again, the substitutes, I was there as a guest of a friend of the show. My daughter was with me. And I told her I predicted the substitutions by name and who was going on, who was coming off for all of our substitutes. And it shouldn't be like that. Now, if I can predict them, I'm sure Premier League managers can as well. But that shouldn't take away from it's more like lack of disinterest, which was the most painful thing from it. Is like there was an air of acceptance that they wanted more than us, and there was no roll your sleeves up. You know, it used to be a case of we'd get in people's faces, and intensity was our identity. It was the opposite of that on Sunday. And as you know, Steve, I met you after the game. The mood wasn't good, but after having a week to reflect on it, the mood's still not good because it was inexcusable. But what's happened after that is, again, it's been journalists or social media driven carnage. You know, it's an international week, and people just go off on one, whether it's for clicks, whether it's for likes, whether there's a lot of statements getting made without substance. Now, to offer an alternative view, I've seen there was a lot of people criticising the fact that they did the lap of honour at the end of the game. Now, and I've watched a lot of different channels this week. Not one of them's come up with a different perspective where it could have been Eddie Howe saying to the players, "You've let these fans down. You go and face them." You know what I mean? You go and face them. You look in their eyes and you feel the pain that they're feeling. You know that you've let them down. Why should he have to sit with the journalists in the press conferences afterwards and take all the flack for them? He did. He did say it was on him, but the players need to have some, or be in touch with reality as well. So I think it was a bit more of that. I know they do it most games, but for me, that one, because I stayed to the very end, and I see them, you wouldn't let anyone down the tunnel. Now imagine if the game had just finished 2-1 as it did, and they just all slipped off down the tunnel. There would have been, you know what I mean? So whatever they'd done, there was going to be wrong. But I think it was more Eddie Howe saying, you have to go and face your public. You know, you take the claps, now go and get the slaps. And it could prove to be good man management as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, look, the bottom line is, they've done that all season. It's not a lap of honour. It's thank you, for coming and supporting us, and thanks for staying, even though we've been crap. It's as simple as that, really. And I mean, I've criticised the dressing room photographs, as you know, on here, and I think that's quite disparaging towards other teams. And we've got our comeuppance when Sunderland, of course, did the photograph in front of us at the Stadium of Light. This season, it was always going to come back at some point and, bite us on the backside. But, look, the team do what they do. Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall and that do what they do. And, they're going to get some stick. So, they deserve some stick for losing 2 derbies this season. But let's face it, they've just done what everybody else has done over the last, 11, 12 years of derbies. Newcastle have been absolutely awful whenever we've played Sunderland, with the exception of the FA Cup game when they were in the first division. So it's, they're up there with everybody else. And I think the last person to get a point was Benitez, wasn't it? With Mitrovic scoring a goal in a 1-1 draw. If you'd not done that, would have been talking about 11 in a row, not 6 in a row. So it's, listen, it's in the past. We'll forget about it. We'll move on. Put it right next season. Ian, thank you for gifting memberships. Much appreciated, mate. Thank you very much. Okay. Roger says, is Storm Sandro causing bigger wins than we know? He, of course, is referring to the story that was put out there to suggest that Liam Kennedy put the story out, suggested that Sandro Tonali has an agreement in place that if Newcastle don't get European football, then he can leave. Well, what's your feelings on all that? Because it's certainly caused a stir amongst the fan base.
I'm not disputing Liam or where he got his information from, but that was quickly rebuked by Luke Edwards. And I know of the two who I'd prefer to believe. Irrespective of that, it's one of those where someone's saying one thing and someone else, it's playground stuff, As far as I'm concerned, and my way of looking at it is, I don't think, this is not saying Liam's wrong, but I don't think that at any time in the last 12 months they've said to Sandro Tonali, especially what's happened with Isak, if we don't get Europe, you can leave. I think that might have been something mentioned when they were signing him, or when they were looking at his new contract with the extension, saying, look where we are. Because both teams would just got into the Champions League, either whilst he was suspended or once he came back. And I think there would have been discussion, look, we can assure you not Champions League, European football. You stay with us or you sign for us and you'll get European football every year. Now, that's something that would be said is a sales pitch to a player. Come to us, we've got a project, we're on the up. We will get European football every year. Now, if it was said, what if, and again, it's all ifs and buts, but what if you can't provide European football, can we leave? I don't think that was said. And if it was, it would be in a contract. I think a lot of it is just agents trying to get either a better price for each player, a bigger salary, sign non-contract. But this is what agents do. And I know Tonali's never said he wants to leave. Every time he's been asked, he said he's happy. But as a player, as a professional, he does want to better himself. But if that's the case and he wants Champions League football, does that mean he's going to sign for Hearts next season then, if they win the Scottish Premier League? Of course not. It's for the money. It's always about the money. So let's not get all this. It's just because generally the way football's went over the last 2 decades, the teams that are in the Champions League are the teams with the most money. So he's not going, if he is to go, he's not going anywhere because it's the guarantee or the lure of Champions League football. It would be the Champions League football plus a much bigger salary. And that's what it boils down to. Can we pay the salary that these players want? Which leads you on to, again, if you read the national papers rather than the locals, it doesn't seem to be many players from other teams getting linked to moves away. It just seems to be Hall is now the latest one. If you look at Man United's team next season, it should be like old Newcastle just about, but there's Hall, there's Chow, there's Bruno, Tino Livramento, Sandro, Anthony Gordon, all of them being linked with clubs at the very top of the European game. Now, that should tell you that we've got some excellent players. And what we should be looking to do is retain these and add to them. And if we can't, then that's the fault of the people above or behind the scenes who aren't providing the necessary funds for us to go and buy these quality players to add, because we do have quality players, and I know Eddie Howe's advanced a lot of them, but how grateful can you stay forever? I know we discussed this last week when we were in the bar, but if you're earning, I don't know, £1,000 a week and someone says, you know, move to this company and I'll give you £3,000 a week, the chances are you're going to move. You know, loyalty only can go take you so far. The most things people are loyal to in life outside of family and friends is their pocket. And that seems to dictate. And we're stuck with this PSR thing where we can't pay the salaries yet. So do I blame agents for doing it? No. But again, I have to keep repeating the phrase, you don't have to accept it, but you've got to try and understand it of what's happening. Now, if Tonali goes, then that's because we didn't have enough revenue to keep him. And that then goes back to the sponsorships. It goes back to revenue coming in or lack of revenue to be able to afford to pay these people the right salaries that, for whatever way you will look at it, they deserve. These players have improved, but that's the job of the manager to improve them. We have to then make sure that we retain them if we can. And if Tonali really wants to go to Italy, let him go back and say, okay, I'll take 50 grand a week instead of the 150 I'm on. Let's see if he really wants to go back that much, which we'll find out he doesn't want to go back that much. So there's only a few clubs that will be able to buy these players as well. And I think we mentioned it last week, Steve, that there needs to be a big discussion at the end of the season, a very open discussion. Like, genuinely, let's have the honesty from the players. And let's get it nipped in the bud before we have another summer of turmoil. Get into them and say, right, if you want to leave, we will get you the best price. We will get you the move if we get our price matched. And then we can start looking to replace the players that are going to leave so it doesn't get dragged on to the very last hours of a transfer window like last year. But the strange thing is people slagging out, all of a sudden Tonali's a bad player. You know, it's just like if you split it with someone, the other person becomes a bad person because you're not with them anymore. Tonali's not a bad player. Tonali is genuinely one of our world-class players. He hasn't had the best of seasons, granted, but we know that form's temporary, class is permanent. And the people that saying Tonali owes us, he should be loyal to us because of his ban. Although he did take a drop in salary off his own admittance, his own offerings, he offered to take a drop in salary. He missed all bar a few games a full season for us. So I can understand people saying he needs to be loyal to us. He could then say, well, I'll give you another 2 years and now you're not offering me European football. Then the flip side of that is, well, he's part of the problem why we haven't got European football. But what I find amusing is the same people saying he should be loyal are the same people saying Eddie Howe out. So where's their loyalty Eddie Howe for what we've done over the last 4 years? Sometimes it makes us laugh, but it's also sad at the same time how reactionary people can get. And sometimes saying nothing and taking a step back is the right answer. And looking at the bigger picture, and I will repeat, sometimes you don't have to accept it, but you have to try and understand it.
Yeah. Okay. Lots of questions coming in. I've got a couple of emails as well. I'm hoping I can get to them in the second half of the show. So bear with us for now. Lots of questions. Question, it wasn't visible on TV, but where did the instruction of slowing the game down against Sunderland come from, do you think?
Two players, most importantly, were Trippier and Dan Burn, using the hand actions, telling the players to slow down, to calm down.
Okay.
So those in the ground, they would tell you that, they would have seen it themselves.
Rackster says, if the club can't pay higher wages, can they not offer huge end of season bonuses based on success, or is that breaking the rules?
You can, but that has to be done, as I understand it, at the start of a contract. And a lot of players do have bonuses written in the contract. There was a thing I watched with Isak Hayden a couple of weeks back, and he was talking about how they got big bonuses for overachieving, and Mike Ashley didn't want to do the same again, even though that would have been overachieving again. But most players now, it's not just the players, because they very rarely get involved in the negotiations. It's more the agent. And the agent wants, what's the phrase, a bird in hand is better than two in the bush. And I think they want the money up front. It's purely agent and player driven in favour now. And it's not right, but that's how it is. So imagine if you're getting 200 grand a week and they say we'll give you 100 grand bonus if you qualify for the Champions League, because it's not just one player. You know, you've got to score at 25 plus the kids that get games, plus the management, the coaching staff. If you're giving them all 100 grand, times that by 30, I'll try to do the maths quickly, there's 3 million of your money you've made already given out in bonuses before you've even kicked the ball in the competition the next season. But if you're on a big salary like 200 grand a week, is 100 grand over 12 months going to really be the motivating factor to push you to get the Champions League? So in theory, that would be fantastic. That would be the way that I think most people would like to go. But the agents aren't most people, and they want the bird in the hand.
Yeah, certainly do. Okay, does Stu seriously believe we're going to have the great transfer window we all deserve? I think a kick in the teeth is more likely, says John, who's feeling happy this morning.
Yeah, well, I think John's probably on the money as well. If we go back over the last few windows, when we always want to believe, you know, that's what we do as fans. You know, even when we've had bad summers, I'm going back to the 80s and that, and you queue up to get in the Gallagher. It's the first game of the season. You always think this is going to be our year, or the third round of the FA Cup. This is our year for a cup run, and then reality quickly hits when you get beat at home 2-1 of Millwall or 4-0 of Everton. You know, and then you realise that all your dreams were just that. They were just dreams. But they are talking the talk behind the scenes, and we've accused them of kicking it down the road over the last 3 or 4 months when they were laying the foundations for not spending money in January. And then since then, you know, they're all talking about having a big summer. So they're putting pressure on themselves. So do I believe they're going to have a great transfer window? I really want them to. But I think the proof will be in the pudding come the end of August. Or realistically, probably before the World Cup, because then we'll know who's out and who's in.
Okay, some great questions coming in this morning. David Baird, good morning. He says, Stu, can PIF reach their target, do you think, for Newcastle United Football Club?
It depends which target you're going on. If David's referring to being number one, that's something that PIF always try to do in every business that they invest in, is to be the best and maximise that business to its full potential. So if that's the case, then yes. But again, we've seen it. We've had enough of talking the talk. We need to see people walking the walk now. And just to repeat what I said there, the proof will be in the pudding. Can they reach it? Yes. Will they reach it? It depends how vigorously they want to fight their restrictions. Because I'm off the ilk that if they do go to overspend and then they get docked points, then they can just point fingers straight at what's just happened to Chelsea and say, there you go. And I'm sure we'd have Nick DeMarco KC willing to come back into bat because of his affection for Newcastle and his supporters. And I also think that the PAF would get the best lawyers, whether they want to do that, because it then looks like the Saudi bullies just trying to sport wash they'd win the league that way. And it's the adverse publicity that they don't want. So does that make them a soft target, or does that make them compliant? I'll let you decide.
Okay. Would the conflict in the Middle East affect the summer transfer market, Stu, says AJ?
No, it shouldn't. It was a question that was asked last night, wasn't it? And I put a comment on. See, there's been, I know I've spoken to Mitch about this several times, and me and Steve Hasty had a good chat in between Heat's dance lessons last weekend. So we were talking. I don't know if it's a lack of understanding, but yes, there's a oil crisis going on. I know Mitch referred to the price of oil going up, but that's supply and demand. But they have plenty of oil. And I'll use the word bore, if you pardon the pun, because it's oil related. But rather than bore people, the easiest way to get oil out of the region is down the Strait of Hormuz, which isn't straight, which might confuse people. But then there is a pipeline that goes from the east of Saudi to the west of Saudi, and that can filter oil through and get it out that way. But most importantly, the PIF, the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, has that funds already. You know, that $1.4 trillion, whatever it is, that's already sitting there. They're not relying, when they're making these investments, it's for the future of Saudi. So you may get less relying on oil. If anything, it would actually benefit Newcastle, because we're one of many that they've invested in to take this reliance of oil by 2030. And the money's already there. So they're not investing on the hope that they keep selling oil. The money's there to make sure that they don't have to have the oil, if you follow what I'm saying. So that huge resource of money is sitting there, and they will spend it. They will look at being more prudent in areas, because they had made a big splash initially, especially with golf and boxing in the sporting world. But I think they're fully aware that football is the global sport, the main sport worldwide. Does that mean they're going to throw as much money as they can and waste money? No, because it goes back to the thing I initially said. It's a business investment for them. But they do see the idea that if they're not making money, as in if they're not getting higher up the league, then they're not going to make the money in the con. They understand the ethics now. I think how football works. I think it would have been an eye opener for the first couple of years. I think the pointed people who they thought would make the difference and realised that hasn't happened. But we have to give the two incumbents now in charge of transfers and in charge of running the club on a daily basis. That's Dave Hawkinson and our new CEO, our new sporting director. We have to give them the opportunity to prove themselves, and that will come this summer. You know, so I've said many times, Steve, I don't think fans care who's in the boardroom as long as we care as fans what's happening on the pitch. But there is a line between that not working well to the pitch not working well. But that's not used as an excuse, is used as an example.
Yeah, okay. Gary Laverty says some valid points on Amanda even made last night. Do you think that things would be much different if she was still here? Isak still here, for example?
I think this season would have been a lot easier if Isak was here, for sure, because he was the tip of the spear. The team was built to function at its maximum with him playing. And when it was, I think there was always a hope that he would stay. There was a desire that he would stay, and that come from the very, very top. And when it was apparent that he wasn't going to stay, irrespective of what was going to happen, it was too late to get a similar replacement. It was, let's see what we've got left on the market. And for a long time, I think this is where Wisa's getting a lot of stick as well. Although he's hardly covered himself in glory, there is mitigating circumstances for that. He was never signed to replace Isak. He was signed to replace Wilson, and that was clear from the start of the window why we were chasing him to replace Callum Wilson. And that now, when the Voldemort issue, should he have been signed, shouldn't he have been signed? You just got to think and thank your lucky stars that he was signed, because if he hadn't been, where would have been without his goals in the first few months of the year? But he was signed right at the end. There was no pre-season with him. There was no how do we get around this? And I'm not making excuses. I'm stating fact. It's been relentless fixture list where it's very hard to have the time to try and mould the team into how. So that it was just a case of as you were, and we'll have to try and make do and muddle through this year. And unfortunately, it's proven to be a year off that. There's been some ups, but there's been more downs. But that's because we're now more expectant and we're used to success or relative success of being at the top end of the table rather than being pleased to still be in the same league. So that's when they see the word mental there, that's the mentality shift that we've had as supporters over the last 4 or 5 years, where if we finish 8th, it's seen as a disaster now. So that for me is a good thing. That's seen as a bad thing. Hope you're following that. It's, you know what I mean? But it means we've underachieved by finishing 8th, where we would have street parties a few years back if we ever finished 8th. And I know there's been money spent, but every transfer window or every time there has been availability to spend money, the PAF have put their hands in the pocket and delivered the cash. But what needs to be done is made sure there's more opportunities for them to do so. And I don't want to keep going over old ground with the sponsorships, etc., because I think everyone's either bored or very fully understand of how I've explained that probably over the last 3 years.
Yeah, okay. Squeeze another one in, I think, before the break. Question: has any member of the current squad said they want to leave? No, it's all conjecture to unsettle, which gets back to what we were saying about Tonali before.
Yeah, but we don't know if they have. They haven't. And again, it's conjecture that there'll only be a few people that will know. Some people might be looking to get away. Some people that might have it in their mind to get away. Like the thing this week, the person who's become the most Marmite of the whole squad has been Anthony Gordon. And I thought he was our outstanding player against Sunderland. He's the one that showed the passion. He understands what a derby means. And he was running at the keeper. He scored the goal. He kept trying. I mean, he had a couple of shots in the second half that were nothing to write over, but at least he was having a go. But this week, he was asked a question. It was quick-fire question, Saka or Shearer. He said Saka. Now, that, of course, that's now treason, and he should be hung off the Tyne Bridge, and we need to get rid of him as soon as possible. He's sitting in a change room with Saka. He's his mate. Of course he's going to say that. You know what I mean? It's just like if they'd said David Seaman or Jordan Pickford, he would have said Jordan Pickford. You know, so sometimes people just are looking for reason to get angry. And again, it's these same people who are demanding how out, but then demanding loyalty from the players. You can't have it both ways, my friend. You've got to have, you've got to say, okay, I understand why he said it. Doesn't mean I have to like it. So are we in a position where, with what's going on in the media, we know why it's going on? And I think anyone who watches these shows on a Friday and Sunday will vouch. A lot of it is for clicks, it's for likes, because that's how they make the money. The journalists make the money. That's how the YouTube channels make money. And I'll say it on here. I've never been paid 1 penny for doing any of these shows, Steve, ever. Not one thing. And I can guarantee the viewers, if there's 1,000 people watch this, or 100,000 people watch this, I'll speak exactly the same way. But Steve would be happier because, there's 100,000 people watching these shows. But that's not the reason, because if Steve was purely content-driven, there'd be like scandalous headlines to try and attract people onto these shows. What this is me sitting down with my mate, answering questions that you were asking. Now, you might not like the answers, you might not agree with the answers, but I'm here for my opinion. And if you don't agree with them, that's fine. If you do agree with them, that's fantastic. But we're all entitled to the opinions. But what's happens, it happens quite often now with Newcastle as well, is it becomes personal and abusive. And there's no need for all of that. And for me, if someone starts doing that, they've already lost the argument anyway. They've already lost any debate they're in if they're starting insulting someone. It's because they're saying, I'm not intelligent enough to debate with you. So what I'll do is I'll start insulting you. And that's the sad thing of it as well. So lecture over about social media habits.
Quick ad break, back after this.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com, or contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to United Group Travel, our fanzine sponsor. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach. All excursions included. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Deposits from £50 per person. A big thanks to Media Arts. Their website, www.media-arts.co.uk. Email info@media-arts.co.uk or telephone 0191 637 5061. If you want to help support the channel, then you can click the subscribe button. We still do 7 shows a week. It is free. Hit the thumb up to like the video and click share to share to your social media. A big thanks to Sports Social Podcast Network. You can listen to us on the road, on this network, or by tuning into iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. You can also join the channel by hitting the join button on YouTube or go to our website, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. You can pay a one-off fee of £25 and you'll receive a membership card, a beer mat, a fridge magnet, a key ring, a badge and a pen. £25, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk.
Okay, welcome back to Ask Penman. We've got a long question from John Askew in the email box. He says, 2 years ago, there seemed little wrong with our club. 2 years on, and there seems to be little right with it. The change is breathtaking, and if we can work out why, then that's no bad thing. I'm a stuck record on this, but we were far better under Amanda and Mirdad. What's been going on with Darren Eales, Paul Mitchell, David Hopkinson and Ross Wilson? Well, one clear change has been on transfer windows, and let's be frank, they're absolutely critical. Despite the odd blip, we were superb under Amanda, but we've been dreadful ever since. Is it a coincidence? Do me a favour. It appears we've been deliberately led up a garden path by men who should have been looking after our club's interests and have probably been paid handsomely for doing so. But look what's happened. Who's benefited from the Isak scandal? It was a disaster for us. And what was going on with Mark Gahey a couple of years ago? We signed no one, and that's not the only time it's happened. Windows should be used by genuinely ambitious clubs to move forward. In fact, without a proper transfer strategy, real progress is virtually impossible. And if you get it wrong, you're bound to go backwards. And the last 2 years have been shocking for us. But why? Do you really think since Amanda left, those in charge of transfer windows have been doing their best for us? Because I don't. In fact, it looks like they've done a cracking job with the status quo 6, and for all those who want us to fail. We needed to sign 1 or 2 in January, but it didn't happen. Of course not. But we did manage to sell the cells. It was almost an identical window 12 months before. It's pathetic and it's disturbing. What are we playing at? We've all been saying that it's great the next few years having 2 fine young quality fullbacks in the fullback positions for the next few seasons. And if it happens, we can look forward to excellent quality in those areas on the pitch. Horrendously and disgracefully, it isn't going to happen. I really hope I'm wrong, but it seems like Tino's on his way to the Etihad. In fact, I'd be surprised if Ross Wilson hasn't already rubber stamped the deal. And if that's true, is he fit for purpose at our club? Selling the family silver was supposed to be a thing of the past. Is it returning with a vengeance? I fear so. And if the fans aren't really worried, why not? Our future probably depends on stuff like this. And if we're betrayed by those with influence in the corridors, then we've got no chance. How did they get the job? And why was Mr. Wilson so reviled at Ibrox? He's heading the same way on Tyneside, I fear. Or perhaps I've got it wrong. What do you think, Stu? Are we going to have a transfer window quarter in the summer and our sky will return to the blue colour we enjoyed under Amanda? I'd love it and I'll happily eat humble pie if it happens, but I'm not optimistic. And why would anyone be? And this is a good question. If Amanda and Mirdad hadn't been pushed out, how much better would the club have been? Would we have been higher in the league? Would our position be any better? And would we be higher? I've obviously got grave concerns regarding Ross and David. Where do you stand? And if we really want to keep Tino, it's quite simple, really. Just reject all the bids and give him the contracts he deserves. But does the last couple of games reveal that a deal has already been struck? What are we doing, man? So, I mean, look, we've talked about some of those points that John emailed over. But, yeah, I mean, it's a big summer, isn't it, for Ross Wilson? And, you know, David Hopkinson's come in, done his 100-day review. We've spoken about different things. I think the one thing we haven't spoken about with regards to David Hopkinson is the leaked story that came out at St James's Park about him sending a video message out after the Sunderland game. So, I mean, big summer for Ross Wilson. Do you think he's going to, you know, I don't know, beat the critics down with a brush and do some decent business this summer. And David Hopkinson, was it right to send a video message out to the workforce?
Well, there was a lot of questions in that email, and thank you to John for taking his time to write it. Also, try and get through the bits I remember. There's a lot of, we have to be careful about how we look back at Amanda's time with us, because I think now, because we've seen the other side of it where there's been minimum communication, we can be very misty-eyed and say she spoke to us all the time. She didn't. She cared. She would meet the fans. I met her personally in Riyadh when I flew over there when we had that tournament shortly. I think it was just 1 year into the tenure. And there was a question and answer. There was a few players there. The manager was there. Amanda was there. And she did have the hands-on effect. And she's passionate about anything she does. But we have to remember that she got involved not because she supports Newcastle United or she loves the Geordies. She might have learned to start loving the Geordies, but she's seen a business opportunity to make sure more money went into the Staveley household, and she walked out a lot wealthier than she did walking in. If people want to be blunt, that's not me decrying anything she's done, because without Amanda, none of it would have happened, and we probably would be in the Championship or even worse than that now if she hadn't been as persistent as she was. But she'll now have a fond affection always of Newcastle and its supporters. But if the opportunity arose for her, and I know it's been touted with Tottenham, but even another club, she would take it. And I'm saying that as if I'm speaking on her behalf, and I know her like as best friends and that. But I'd be surprised if she didn't take it. But I get the meaning behind what John's asking, because she was willing to communicate. She did. Most importantly, she was genuine. When she was speaking with passion, and she wants the best for the club. Now, that come across in how she interacted with fans, how she defended us, and how she promoted us in various interviews. We haven't had that since. So it's something that I think Mitch said a few weeks ago, that when players are injured, they become better players, it's because they're not in the team and the team's not doing that well. So, if that person was playing, then, would be much better off than that. But so that was Amanda thing. I try to remember what the next one was there. He mentioned the Isak thing. I think we've all learned from that. And I think as a fan base, we've become battle scarred by it. It did affect people's emotions mentally as well. Is he going? Is he staying? And we all wanted him to stay. And the bad feeling towards him is because we know that was a big chunk of our cup-winning team getting taken away. He's the one that scores the goals. I know he's not the only player on the team, but he, as I referenced earlier, he was the tip of the spear. He was the one player that we wouldn't have wanted to sell, because it's always the goal scorers that get all the glory anyway. That's never going to change. And how that was handled, we're now scared this going to happen again with Tonali. But I would like to think the club have learned from it. Is it a big summer for Wilson? Wilson more than Hopkinson, I would say. Absolutely it is. And they keep piling the pressure on themselves by saying we're going to have a big summer. So a big summer, hopefully it's a positive one. We have to get into a position where, what I try to do is always look at the positives, and if I can't control it, then I try not to get too worried about it. I can't control who we're going to sign. I can't control who wants to leave. What I can't control is I'll support Newcastle United forever. And even last Sunday, even though we got beat off Sunderland, the day was brilliant, all barring that 45 minutes, second half, or 50 minutes as it ended up being. Getting up early, it's like a kid on Christmas. Now, bear in mind, I'd been up in Edinburgh and had been on the drink for 12 hours. Well, that was interrupted by a football match breaking out, but then get back to my parents and then get up early to make sure I was in the queue to get in the Strawberry for 9 o'clock opening. Like a kid on Christmas morning, and then meeting you in the heat there and Steve Hasty, and then going into the ground, and And that display by War Flags, it was fantastic. It really was. And not enough's been said about that either. You know, that seems to have been missed. All the hard work by all the volunteers to make that look like they did. And then when that tifo came up, you know, with the castle keep and all that, it was just amazing. That made part of the day. And then after the game, I mean, we met people who watched the show. There's a few, but I'll give Chris a special mention because he hung about for probably longer than he wanted to be fair, with us. But the camaraderie after the game, listening to people's thoughts, you know, Nash was in the bar as well. And we had, you know, that's what football days are about. But once you get back and then we all dissect the game and what was wrong, what was right. Well, it was more wrong than right last week. For me, that's what we can control. And as fans, we're going to worry ourselves sick about who's signing, who's getting sold. These people have been appointed. And I'll give you another example to try and explain. I was speaking with Keith Patterson on Monday. And the majority of the conversation was about the social media posts. I don't know if it's Instagram or TikTok. I'm not on any of them. By Jason Tyndall's daughter, you know, calling fans fickle. Well, that was one word in the sentence. I mean, some of what she was saying was right, but it was like the general consensus from not just Keith, but from everyone is like, I won't use the bad language, but who is she to tell us how to feel as football supporters? Where there was paying for eyelash extensions, where there weren't paying for a dad's sunbeds, etc., etc. But what we agreed, Keith and I both agreed, was that we were there long before the Tyndalls rocked up. She wouldn't have heard of Newcastle United 5 years ago, and we'll be there long after they've gone. And that's what we can control, is our love for the club. And I think, and I'd like to think, if we start looking back in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, and hopefully we're still alive to do so, we'll look back at this period because the hurt disappears. You know, we'll look back with a fondness and think this was a great era for Newcastle United, because we're old enough to compare it to other eras of supporting this club. So we've had a taste. We've given all the promises and we've had a taste. And what I think is causing a lot of angst now is not just the transfer windows of people who might leave, is we've again been promised. I know Amanda said it at the cup final, that was pure raw emotion about we're going to win the lot. But the chairman then also said it. But then for the CEO to repeat that just months ago, that he wants us to be, or he expects us to be there at the top within the next 4 years, then we're entitled to dream. We're entitled to get carried away. And it's up to them to deliver. And all I want them to do is to do their very best. If they've went through all this process of hiring and firing and decided these are the best two people in their positions to take this club forward, then who are we to disagree? I know we're fans, but who are we really to disagree? Let them do it. But we can't knock them down before they've even had a chance to do it. You know, the time to criticise Wilson will be in September when the window's closed, not now before he started. You know, we should really be getting behind him and encouraging him and not pleading with him, but just hoping he delivers on his, in the business world, his KPIs. And in Hopkinson, I've seen so many things like he's working away, he's working in New York. How do you know he's not working for Newcastle in New York? How do you know he's not doing a sponsorship deal? How do you know he's not sorting out a TV deal that's exclusive to Newcastle United? There's so many things he could be doing. But again, it's now where people want to look for the worst in people rather than the best. And that's why I disengage with a lot of people when they want to come out negative. Sometimes there's a flip side to it as well. So Amanda, yes, I guess she gave lots to us, but you have to look at the reasons why she did, and fair play to her, because she didn't stop until she got it. Is Wilson going to deliver? Only time will tell. I want to say yes, but I could be totally wrong with that. Is Hopkinson the right man for the job? Well, if you look at what he's done previously, his CV is stellar. And that's not the lager I'm not thinking about this afternoon yet, but his CV is stellar. So why can't he fix Newcastle? We have to still get back to the real reasons of what's wrong with why we're not progressing. And because we've moved up so quick, we've stagnated, and this season feels like we've went backwards. And on the pitch, we'll probably have. Off the pitch, we certainly did, but that doesn't mean we can't regroup and go again. But to regroup and go again, we have to be united, and that's in the club's name. So give people a chance before you condemn them to failure. And if they do fail, then he loses his job. You won't lose your job because he didn't sign the right players that you wanted. He loses his job because the team on the pitch has failed. So I'm forgiving everyone a chance. And if these are the ones that the powers that be believe are the best to move this club forward, then they've got my support.
Okay, good stuff. Some great answers, some great questions. Have the players, says Tom, stopped listening to how Stu, or has fatigue and PSR, SCR, squad size determined, constant second half fall off in games, has that affected our performances this season?
Loads of things has. And this is another thing I find funny, because someone runs with it. Someone says something, whether it be an influencer or journalists, and we've got a team of athletes. He's only wanting to buy athletes. Well, he hasn't bought many good athletes because they cannot run for the second half of the game, can they? So they had a team of athletes that got us into the Champions League first time round. They had a togetherness, they had a common bond, a thing that drew them all together. They had a goal, a target that they wanted to achieve, and there was a togetherness of that. Could it be a bit more that it's a bit complacency? Could it be like, I've got as high as I thought I could get and I've made it, rather than want to push again? And that's where you have to have the turnaround of the squad, on a regular basis, not one window where it was crash, bang, wallop right at the very end. And if you look at the windows before, we weren't able to turn that squad over. So there's a lot of reasons, in my opinion, of why we are where we are. But by selling Isak, it's give us the money. I know people say, "Oh, we spent that already." It's with the way it gets amortized. It hasn't already been spent. And the people that we signed at the start of this regime, their amortized years are coming off the outgoings, as will people like Trippier, Kraft's salary, possibly. Well, I think Hayden's is up this year as well. There's going to be maybe £500,000 a week in salaries that will become spare. So that goes back to one of the comments earlier regarding Tino and possibly Hall. Give them more money. But it's there's me saying it's all about the money. But again, we have to show these players that they're valued, but also we have to show them that we're serious as a club. But getting back to Tom's questions, have the players stopped listening now? I don't think so. Maybe it's I think I said this to you, Steve. Alex Ferguson, he changed his coaching staff on a regular basis, so the players weren't hearing the same voices every day. They weren't becoming bored with it, and this isn't because his daughter criticised the fans, but I'll say something regarding Jason Tinnell. I'm not sure what he's offering, and I don't see behind the scenes, but I see at the match, and he has got that deer stuck in headlights look on his face. And for me, a number two should be the one that's rallying the players on, rather than just standing with his eyes wide open, and staring like, oh, I don't know what to do here. So if you go through Alex Ferguson's tenure at Man United, he had, I can't think, I could probably name 5 of the top of my head number twos that he had that were part of the coaching team, and maybe that's the bit that needs to be added to. I'm not saying replace him, that might happen, but maybe that's the bit that needs to be added to. And if we go back on one of the themes of today's show, being loyalty, maybe Eddie Howe's been too loyal to too many people. So I don't think the squad have stopped listening to them. I just don't think they're capable of competing on 4 fronts. And there's only 2 squads that have this year, and that's been Arsenal and Man City. And if you look at the money that they've spent over the last 10 years and where they started from, they had a much bigger platform than what we did. And I just think sometimes I'm not saying we should be grateful for where we are and accept it and just say, well, that's it. We shouldn't want more. We should always want more. But again, it's understanding of we've come a long way in a short time, and it's not going to continue in that route as much as we all wanted to. I'll still say we'll win the league next year, Steve. I know it's going to be unrealistic, but I'll still say it because I want it to happen. You know what I mean? And if I lose a 10 on it, I lose a 10 on it. I want it to happen, but realistically, it's not going to happen. So there's so much that needs to go right And it did at the start. It did the first couple of years, didn't it? Everything just seemed to go right, and the trajectory was wonderful. But it had to plateau. But these players, they've played more games than everyone else, and this is going to sound like excuses. Yeah, the people are saying if Tonali's not wanting to stay, if he's not committed, get rid of him. Same with Tino. I don't think Bruno wants to go. He'll stay. Get rid of Gordon. You're saying all that, and we're still left with, well, Kraft won't be there, but you're still left with people who are better, who aren't as good as them. These are our best players. We shouldn't be wanting to get rid of them. We should be giving them every reason to stay. And if we can't do it financially, then that's not the club's fault altogether. It's not Eddie Howe's fault altogether. It's the rulings that were put in place, because I do know, and I not just I believe, I know that the PF's intention was to have us at the very top within 5 years of the takeover. They wanted us to be at the very top, even now this season, be challenging for the title. And they would have funded that because they've seen you've got to spend money to make money. That happened with Chelsea, it happened with Man City, and they wouldn't have got involved unless they knew what was coming. Of financial outlay that was expected of them. However, when I'm saying this, there'll still be people saying, yeah, well, what about the stadium, or what about the training ground? And, it just goes round and round and round. But again, back to Tom's question, I don't think the players have stopped listening, and I don't like this fatigue thing. You know what I mean? It's, if you keep saying it often enough, you start believing it. And that's something that Eddie Howe's never done until lately. He's never given excuses. Even that year we finished 7th and we had the worst injury in the league, which we have had this year as well. There was never an excuse. And that's when we were playing a 17-year-old in midfield twice a week. And we kept going. We didn't have fatigue then. We finished 7th then. So does that mean we've got worse or other teams have got better? Have we been sussed out? There's many answers to that one question. So I couldn't just say there's your answer. That's so yes, you're right, Tom. It's because of that. There's so many contributing factors. But what we have done as a club is neglect a lot of them and just think that's all right, Eddie will fix it. Well, now he needs help, so it's up to them to make sure he gets it.
Okay, another question was from, let me get it here, from a different perspective. Never been asked this one. Should Graham Jones still be number 2? Do we need a bit of a shake-up in the coaching staff?
I don't think he is number 2. Tyndall's number 2. Graham Jones is a first-team coach, but he's not known as the number 2.
But should we have I broadened the question. Should we have a change-up in the coaching staff?
My opinion is yes, but not just change for the sake of changing. It has to be the right additions. I believe if you look, certain people do certain roles, isn't it? Like some people work on fitness, some people work on the defence, some people work on the forwards. But the one common theme there's been, apart from when they're praising Eddie Howe, is Graham Jones has come in for the most praise of those he's helped, those that he's done. So I think Graham Jones should stay, but I wouldn't be against changes in the other positions in the coaching staff, whether that be replacing or adding to, because it's important to mix it up. But again, this is where the recruitment of the right person, not just changing for the sake of changing. This could be one of the most important decisions that they make this summer, irrespective of the playing squad. It's those who are training them and motivating them. They have to get that right. So yeah, I think they should change some of the stuff.
We had a great email from David Cook. He said, Steve, after my worst week of the season as a Newcastle United fan for over 50 years, I wanted to reflect on things and share if you feel it's appropriate. As I think your shows are the only ones that truly give a balance to what it is. An NUFC online community that can be difficult to hear at times. We have said Eddie has almost 3 weeks to work with the players and sort out a clear mentality and tactical problems. However, with only 5 of the 17 players who actually entered the pitch on Sunday not away on international duty and 3 players hopefully returning from injury, he's going to be limited in this. But at least it gives him a decent reflection time with the coaching team. We are all hurt after the way we fell apart in the second half of the Barcelona and Sunderland games, but the issues with mentality have been with us all season. Last season, the fans, pundits and some media were full of hype for our team after winning the Cup and qualifying for the European Champions League. Maybe the players took it all in and believed all the hype. Having competence is one thing, but developing a mentality that makes them think take the lead and the job is done is another. The hunger of Eddie's first full season seems to have gone from too many players. Surely if players want to go because we haven't got UCL, fail in our second no dickhead policy because they want to be rewarded for underperforming. Get rid at the best price and build going forward with a group who will do their absolute best for the club. And that's not just by running harder, but by being smarter in their play, game management on the pitch. Too many blame Eddie as he's an easy scapegoat, but the players need to man up. It broke my heart to see George so visibly upset and angry on Monday's fan forum. He bleed black and white, but it's much deeper than the local rivalry. With that, we can only be the best team in the North East. We want to be the best we can be in all aspects of our club. So it's time for the whole club to give its head a wobble, reflect and work out the best way forward for our club. And that's not just with words, but with action. Last Sunday afternoon, my legs felt heavy with a sinking feeling after the match, and my head was foggy with thoughts about all the what's, whys, and hows we can pick things up from the low we are in, which is only relevant because of the highs Eddie has brought us to. Let's see some improvement in the last 7 games that reflect on the reflection time and a summer where the club makes a real stamp on how we go forward to achieve what we all want. A bigger, better and successful Newcastle United. Thanks for your ear. It's helped me clear my head as I look forward to seeing you, hopefully at the Bournemouth match. Take care, David Cook. Thank you, David. Good email. What did you make of what David had to say?
Good email. A lot of it's stemmed from the Sunderland game last week, and that's not the cause of this season, but that's been the icing on the cake for me. Now, again, and something else Anthony Gordon got criticised for was, well, I actually agree with what he said. We are better than them. We have better players than them. So what is inexcusable is, off the pitch, the manager was outthought. On the pitch, the players were outfought, and that should never happen in a derby game. And if we've got a pool of players that aren't performing, now, if Gordon's called them out, which is all right, but now he's playing better again. But if he'd got called out when he wasn't, he would have subbed. So he's in a position. Well, I agree with what he said, and it was honest. It was probably more honest than what you expect of a modern day professional footballer. That we have got better players and we should be beating the Sunderlands. Now that could be a rally cry, because if Lascelles said something similar a few years ago, and he's now called a club legend. So it was a rally cry, or was it him saying, "Well, I tried." So if this team isn't trying, I don't need to be here. I'm better than he said. It depends which way you want to look at what he said. I just thought he gave an honest assessment, and I agree. We are better than them individually, but collectively we weren't in twice. And again, it's the outthought and outfought scenario. So that's the bit that hurts regarding that. The rest of John's email, I think sorry, it wasn't John, it was David's. David's email is bang on. We have to sometimes accept that we can't get to where we all want to be, and stop behaving like spoiled brats. I'm sorry if that sounds a bit childish, I know, but some people do. They're throwing the toys at the pram at the slightest thing. They're looking for reasons to criticise. Why don't you look for reasons to praise? And if there's no reason to praise, well, I don't know. Go and support Man City if you want. If what we're doing isn't for you, then if it's affecting your mental health, then you only want to support winners. You couldn't have been supporting Newcastle United for that long. You really couldn't have if you only ever want to support a winning team. So I'm not sitting here saying I'm dead happy of where we are, because it's been horrible for all of us this season, because our expectations have been higher and we've been allowed to make them higher. But again, still going back to the transfer windows, have they been right? No. There's so much I can answer to David's questions. We'll probably need another 2 hours, Steve. So I'd probably just say great email and let you click on to the next question.
Well, we've reached the end of the show. Great show, great comments. You need to go and top up your drinks, I'm sure. So I'll leave it at that. Have a good afternoon, mate. Thanks for joining us. Back
Cheers.
tomorrow at 10 o'clock, Freezer Crowd. Take care, Stu.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
We have some events coming up over the next 12 months. NUFC Matters End of Season Party takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre on Friday the 22nd of May. Tickets are £10 and the doors open at 7 o'clock at the Tyneside Irish Centre. From Dialogue to Monologue by Arthur Mackenzie, a live script reading takes place on Friday the 5th of June at 7:30 at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Return of the Entertainers, a walking football match, takes place at Gateshead Leisure Centre on Saturday the 6th of June, kick-off 12 o'clock. You can also have a chance to play in the game and take on the Entertainers. Go to our website for more details. Northern Horizon at Blake 7 Convention and Rebel Base Northeaster Star Wars Convention take place on Saturday the 1st of August, 10 o'clock in the morning until 4 in the afternoon at the Copthorne Hotel on the Quayside. All of these events are in aid of Age UK North Tyneside Dementia, and tickets available from nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. The craze for a dinage, Ronnie, Reggie and Me takes place on Wednesday the 11th of November, 7:30 at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. And an evening with Beardsley, Cole and Ferdinand takes place on the 29th of January 2027. Also at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. Box office for both of those events, 0191 243 1171. Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk is the website to book your tickets. If you're looking for something to read on your holidays, why not buy The Entertainers 1992 to 1997, Kevin Keegan's Legacy, or The Promoter and the Photographer, 25 years of bringing the stars to Tyneside. Both books available, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk.